Hello there, and welcome to episode 15 of the From a Certain Point of View podcast. I'm Josh,
I'm Adam.
and we're once again very excited to be bringing you the Star Wars news, reviews, and points of view for this week. And we made it to 15 episodes, Adam. How do you feel about that?
Halfway to 30, baby.
We're halfway to 30. All right. So what have you been up to in Star Wars this week?
Not a ton. Finished the Thrawn audiobook, which I'll be writing about for a blog article on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
I finished season 5 of Clone Wars.
Nice.
And did some live tweeting on Twitter for that, which was kind of fun.
Yeah, I saw that. There's some good stuff in there.
Yeah, and then might as well mention this now, but next week, next Saturday, the 15th, I'm going to be doing that again. Probably around 7 p.m. and I'm going to watch all of season 6. Get ready for season 7, which is that Friday, I think.
Nice.
So
Getting close.
Saturday at 7 on the Certain POV Pod Twitter account. I'm gonna be live tweeting season 6 of Clone Wars. So join in and should be fun.
Sounds good, Adam.
So what have you been up to, Josh?
Yeah, like you, not a whole lot. I just got done this morning watching episode 1 of season 4. So again, I have a lot of work to do to get caught up by the time season 7 rolls around. But it was like the water war episode. They were underwater on
Moncala.
Moncala, yeah. Some pretty cool action stuff in that episode, actually,
yeah.
And Ahsoka was like in this tube under the water, and there was just some pretty cool shots and pretty cool stuff in there that I enjoyed. Aside from the Clone Wars, I've again still been watching a little bit of the Mandalorian again, just kind of rewatching it. Finished up episode 3 of that, which is just such a fantastic episode. Just 1, 2, and 3
was that Cara Dune's first episode?
No, it's the one where they're on Navarro, I think it is, and Mando goes back to get Baby Yoda.
Okay, all right,
and everything. He thinks about leaving, but then he kind of has that battle to get Baby Yoda and everything, and so just the first 3 episodes are just so good, and I was just reminded of how good they were watching them again. And I've also been reading Force Collector, and I'm going to do kind of a review in progress in our review segment today on Force Collector. I'm really enjoying that. I think I'm just a sucker for young adult novels or something like that.
Young adult's good. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with young adult.
Yeah, and the final thing would be I was listening to some John Williams Star Wars score music in the car yesterday, and really enjoying that. And I think, we're going to talk about John Williams a little bit later in the show.
Yeah, and we're recording on his birthday, actually.
On his birthday, so I think the stars kind of all aligned for this talk today.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't mention that I also listened to my first Coffee with Kenobi podcast this week.
Cool.
So they were doing a breakdown of episode 9.
Okay, I haven't listened to that one yet. I just listened to their Mando season 8, chapter 8 recap.
Yeah, I saw that they did all the Mando episodes and everything, and then I wanted to check out their it was like hot takes on the Rise of Skywalker, and
yeah,
there were points during that podcast that I actually was like pumping my fist and like yelling yes, because I don't like to get negative or anything, but I felt the same way they did about the Rise of Skywalker in a lot of ways, even though I love the movie, and especially the second and third time I saw it, I loved so much about it. Like just the things they were saying about it, I was like, yes, this is exactly what I was thinking. And then like how they felt about The Last Jedi, you'll have to listen to it, but I was just kind of fist pumping. So
yeah, it's a great podcast. And I mentioned this before, but Dan Zare helped us some stuff on our podcast. So
yes.
A little bit of a connection there. So thanks to Dan. And if you guys haven't checked out Coffee with Kenobi, you should check it out.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
So are we ready to move into the news segment for this week?
We are. Let me before we do that, let me give a rundown of what we're doing this week.
Oh
So we
yeah,
got
what's happening on the show today?
yeah, we got some news to cover this week. We have some theme park news, and then we have some stuff that came off of the Disney earnings call with Bob Iger. He was chatting about some Star Wars stuff, and we have some Star Wars book news. And then Josh mentioned he's doing a little review in progress of Force Collector, and we're going to be talking about some of John Williams' best works in Star Wars. And then towards the end of the show, stick around because we have some poll results from a poll that we conducted this week on Twitter and Facebook. And we're going to be doing our first. We're going to just name it Triviaway because I stumbled all over that last week, and I guess it's sticking. So
we're going to do it Triviaway.
So yeah, we're doing that, which is a combination trivia giveaway. If you didn't figure that one out, so yeah, stick around to the end of the show and see what that's all about. But yeah, now I am ready for news.
All right, let's head to the news.
Well, you want the bad news or the really bad news?
Our first piece of news this week is theme park news, and it has to deal with the Galactic Star Cruiser, which is the new hotel and then some, I guess.
Hotel experience, maybe.
Experience, it's a good word. Yeah. That's coming to Walt Disney World. They recently announced that the reservations are going to be opening up this fall. We don't have an exact date yet, and we don't even have an exact cost yet.
It'll be high.
It'll be very high.
Very high.
I mean, I've heard this described as basically. Yeah. I've heard this described as basically like a cruise that doesn't leave land, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, you're going to be going to this hotel, which is going to be themed as like this Star Cruiser, and there'll be totally immersive experiences the whole way through the hotel. Really makes you feel like you're on this Star Cruiser, heading towards the Black Spire Outpost, which you'll have a kind of like on a cruise. It's probably the best analogy for that, where you'll be able to go on an excursion into Black Spire Outpost and do some of the experiences there, and then board your Star Cruiser back home, which you never actually leave land.
Right.
So, yeah, the reservations for that are opening up sometime this fall, and start saving your, let's say pennies, but you're going to need probably $10 bills.
A lot more than pennies for sure. Yeah. I watched the video for this last night, and I showed my wife, and she was like, "Yeah, this makes sense. This is exactly what they should be doing," because it just creates this whole experience that unlike anything you've ever had. So basically, you go into this area, and it's sort of like this. I don't know how to describe it, but you walk through this gate basically and go in, and it's like a launch bay type thing, and
right.
And you get kind of this. It simulates you launching into space.
Kind of reminds me of Star Tours.
Yeah.
At least that part of it.
Right. And then meeting up with the Star Cruiser that you then board, and then you're in, and just the whole experience, like the rooms, even your window looks out into space. There's like bunk beds that look like the bed that's on the Millennium Falcon. There you get to actually use a lightsaber and interact with a training remote. And then you get to take a tour of like the, what is it called? Not the main hangar, but the
like the
where the
bridge.
The bridge, yeah, the bridge of the ship and everything, and then eventually, you go down and visit Black Spire Outpost. So, it just looks like an incredible experience for any Star Wars fan. And I guess what I'm wondering is, what is this thing going to look like on the outside? Like, is it something we're going to be able to see from the outside? Is it going to look like a ship, or is it just going to look like a building? Like that. Yeah. That's what I'm kind of curious about as well.
Yeah, I imagine it'll be themed on the outside in some way. Yeah, that's what Disney kind of does. So it's gonna. I imagine I don't know if it would look like a total like a Star Cruiser. Like I don't know if it's gonna like a like that.
Right.
But I imagine it's definitely gonna be themed on the outside somehow.
Yeah. Yeah. So it just sounds like you're completely immersed in this experience, and if I ever get to do this, can't wait.
Yeah, I know. And Mad Dog in our Twitch chat says he's super intrigued by this, and he'll have to save all his money and sell his newborn in order to make it happen.
Yeah, pretty much.
And you
might have to sell a few limbs.
It's not totally off the mark.
Right.
Do some black market selling to get to Black Spire Outpost.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm gonna start saving up. Of course, right now I'm saving up for my trip with my family to Galaxy's Edge. Without staying at the hotel because it's not going to be open when I get there. But the next thing I'll be saving up for is this.
Yeah, and I'm still interested in doing, since I just did a Disney cruise, I'm still interested in doing a Star Wars Day at Sea, and I would like to figure out how to make that happen one of these days.
For sure.
Okay, moving on. This past Monday was the Disney earnings call, and usually with these types of things, you can expect some little tidbits to drop. This is where Bob Iger gets on the phone with some media and things like that, and
Uncle Bob always drops something in there,
some
little tidbit,
and he did drop a couple Star Wars things. And first of all, we have a roundabout date for Mandalorian Season 2, and that's going to be in October of this year. So right around the time, I guess I was thinking, I remember we talked about this before, and I think you were maybe leaning towards more like November, December for this, if I remember right.
Yeah, I thought we'd have to wait a little bit longer, so I was very excited by this.
Yeah, so October 2020 will be our next season of Mandalorian, so we're only about 8 months away from that.
Yeah, I mean, I believe it went into kind of like production or pre-production at least while season 1 was.
Yeah,
we were watching season 1, so Jon Favreau was ready to go. And with the technology they're using, that we talked about last week, stagecraft? Is that what they're calling it?
Yeah.
I think they're probably able to film more quickly than they could, going on location and doing different things like that. So I think that technology is probably helping with the release date.
Yeah. And then the second little tidbit, this is interesting, but Bob Iger commented a little bit on some of the characters in the series. And he mentioned the possibility of taking some of these characters in their own direction in terms of series. So possibly having some, a spin-off series that focuses on, specific characters that we've seen that were maybe in a little bit more of a supporting role in the Mandalorian, maybe getting the spotlight on them. So, what do you think about that, Josh?
Okay, so I guess the first thing I want to say is I want to look at this quote and I want to make sure that we're interpreting it correctly.
Yeah, right, because it's not. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to read the quote. Yeah. It says, "The priority in the next few years is television, with The Mandalorian Season 2 coming in October, and then more coming from The Mandalorian thereafter, including the possibility of infusing it with more characters, and the possibility of taking those characters in their own direction in terms of series."
Right.
So I don't know if this means that we're going to see a current characters
that we haven't even seen yet
getting a spinoff, or a character they introduce
right
in The Mandalorian then getting their own spinoff. So I didn't really, when I responded on Twitter, I kind of responded thinking that it was going to be a current character instead of maybe.
And I don't.
It could go either way.
I mean, it could go either way. The quote the way I actually read Bob's quote even before I tweeted about this was that it seems like it's going to be a character we haven't seen yet.
Right.
A character that might be introduced maybe this fall even. So the characters that we've seen season 1, that they might not, and obviously it can't be Queel, it can't be IG-11, it can't be those guys. So we'd basically be looking at Cara Dune or Moff Gideon or Grief Karga, those types of guys.
Right.
If it's a season 1, but I actually think the way I read it, I think it's a season 2 or beyond character, because there are season 2 isn't even going to be the last season. There are, according to Iger, it's another thing he mentioned, that it will continue past the second season.
Right, which is great news.
Yeah,
I guess my first reaction to this was I didn't know how to feel about it, because there's some other shows I'd rather see than necessarily spinning off of the Mandalorian. If it's a current character of the show, the one I'd be interested in would be Moff Gideon, and I mentioned in the tweet, just seeing kind of a villain have their own show. And looking at how he acquired the Darksaber, maybe having like some Mandalorians in there, Bo-Katan. How did he get that, Darksaber from her and everything? So that's where I'd be more interested if it was a current character. Now, if it's a new character, it could go a lot of different ways. But again, at the end of the day, I'd rather see some other shows take place before seeing a Mandalorian spinoff. But of course, if they put it on there, I'll watch it. So
yeah. Now, one thing that I wanted to mention was it like, even if it is so a Mandalorian spin-off show wouldn't even necessarily have to still be like Mandalorian focused, or it wouldn't even have to follow like the storyline. This could be a character. Actually, one of the characters I was thinking would be cool to see, and I'm not going to remember his name, but I think it was Chapter 6. It was the one where Din Djarin had to meet up with the pirates, and then they rescued the Twi'lek.
Yeah.
I would like to see. I can't even remember the actor's name. Kind of heavier set guy with a beard.
Yeah. He was in Sons of Anarchy. Actually.
Yeah, that guy. Yeah. I would like to see a series with focuses maybe on him, and
you could do, the possibilities are really endless.
And like, it doesn't have to be like that type of same theme that we've seen already. It could be something totally different. Could be something
like different, a character have a different feel.
Yeah, like a character that really like intersects Mandalorian story in a brief time period. It could be something like that too.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, I had put this out on Twitter, and the question that I had asked was, if it was season 1, what characters do you think would make for the most interesting spin-off series, and why? B Sizzles responded with IG-11 faux show, and that would probably have to be a prequel, I guess. Yeah, because it spoiler warning, it can't be a sequel.
Right.
It's kind of in bits and pieces. Menagerie 1 replied with The Adventures of Queel in IG-11 for sure, and again, that would have to be kind of a short thing, because that was
in that time where he kind of reprogrammed him and everything.
So that would be kind of like a more like a mini series, I guess.
Yeah.
Deductionist at J.O.Thedes said, a series with Cara Dune and Grief Karga trying to reestablish the guild on Navarro would be interesting, and be able to keep the same feel as The Mandalorian, but be able to explore different stories from both their pasts through flashbacks. Kind of like how Arrow, the CW series, uses flashbacks. Right?
Yeah, I love how Arrow used the flashbacks. I mean, that's one of my favorite TV shows when it comes to comic book characters or heroes.
Mad Dog on Twitch says Mark Boone Jr. is beard guy.
Mark Boone Jr. That's it. Thank you for the help out there.
Thank you. Appreciate it, bud.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, the one thing about Cara Dune is, I like her character and everything. I just don't know if she could carry her own series. You know what I mean? That'd be my only reservation. But
yeah. I would watch anything with Cara Dune in it.
Yeah, she's awesome, no doubt.
Eddie V, who is at _Eddie_V, said Jawas. And I was like, you know what? When I was tweeting this, I was actually thinking, like, what would a Jawa show be like?
Oh my goodness, it would be crazy. It'd be mayhem.
It would be nuts. And
Yeah.
Like you said, I would watch it if it was on there. I would watch it. You know,
it just brought me back to the episode where they're telling Mando that he speaks terrible Jawa. Like,
yeah, and
just having a series, just hearing the Jawas talk and everything. Like,
yeah. He even put a GIF in there. You speak terrible Jawa. You sound like a Wookiee.
There it is.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I was thinking about it as I said it. As I tweeted it, I'd watch it.
Yeah.
And you know, from a certain point of view, the short story collection actually had a short story that was focused solely on a Jawa. So
there you go. It's possible.
I guess so.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Marvel Wars, which is at Star Wars Marvel, said Cara Dune. Did I already read? No, I didn't. Cara Dune, because it would be great to hear the story of her days as a shock trooper.
Shock trooper, yeah. Yeah, I remember reading that one. That one sounded pretty cool.
Yeah, cool. Keith Franklin, which is at Franklin808, said, although I enjoy them as supporting characters, none of them would be good to lead another show.
Yeah,
which is fair.
That's,
I mean, you already
that's kind of my concern as well. Yeah.
And then Jake Lee Gyllenhaal at Gake Jaskin said, none, as we've already learned from Disney, too much Star Wars is a bad thing. In moderation with care and effort. Plus, Mando was the coolest one, and he doesn't care about the other ones, which I don't know.
I can't completely disagree with what he's saying. I mean, I think they do have to be cautious, you know, about putting too much out there. Because of, you know, just fatigue and stuff like that, if that's a thing. But
I don't know.
But I think if you put out quality stuff, then, you know, there's, you know.
I really don't know. Like, Star Wars fatigue has been mentioned so much lately, and I can't get behind that. Like I enjoyed Solo a lot. And the only reason why Solo gets blowback, honestly, is because it came out right after Last Jedi. Yeah,
and I think it had more to do with when they released it as well, because releasing it in May, you were going up against like was that like Infinity War was around that time, that
something like that,
and like Deadpool 2 was out at that point too, and I think if they would have released it in December, I think it could have done a lot better. Yeah, I mean, my feelings about Solo don't have anything to do with Star Wars fatigue. You know, so it's not really an issue for me, but I don't know if some people experience that or not.
Yeah, like I really don't know if it's a real thing. Like for me, like like I'll watch anything Star Wars that's out there, you know. I've been binge watching Clone Wars in the middle of, you know, doing all this other stuff. I've been reading multiple novels a week. I've been reading comics, you know, Rise of Skywalker 4 times or 5 times, something like that. It's not a real thing for me, and I keep going back to Marvel because it's
there doesn't seem to be any Marvel fatigue.
No, it's been 10 years for Marvel, and you hear a little bit out there about people, you know, just being tired of these movies, and I understand that.
Yeah,
but you know, Endgame is the #1 grossing movie of all time, and that you know, that was. And then, you know, Spider-Man immediately after that was $1 billion movie.
Yeah, and I mean, thinking about even the television series that Marvel's going to be putting out on Disney Plus, there's a ton of them. So yeah, I think
then not just MCU
right,
stuff. I mean, like even before these series were out, there's how many different animated series revolving around Marvel characters that we see in the movies. Even if it's not connected narrative-wise, you know, it's still out there. It's still the same stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't really think that Star Wars fatigue is a real thing.
Yeah, it might not be, and I like I'm saying, if you do it the right
could be
way
for some, and like if you're actually tired of Star Wars, I don't want to like put down like your feelings on that, because, you know, I'm sure that those are real.
Yeah.
But I think in the long run, the only reason my Star Wars fatigue is even a conversation is just around what happened with Solo and Last Jedi. So,
yeah.
Moving on, our last news topic of the week is kind of a collection of news a little bit, and the stuff that we didn't have a chance to talk about last week, and I really wanted to mention it just because I'm I'm such a huge fan of the novels.
Mm-hmm.
But we are getting first of all, we are getting a Poe Dameron prequel novel. It kind of focuses on his more teenage years.
His days as a spice runner with Zori Bliss, maybe?
Yeah, it could be.
Mm-hmm.
And it's classified as more young adult fiction, which, we've already talked about.
So I might like
we're
that.
very into, yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I think I've said this before. Lost Stars is probably if not my favorite Star Wars book of all time.
Mm-hmm.
It's like seriously up there, like top 3 easily.
It's definitely my favorite.
Yeah.
As well.
So this is going to be written by Alex Segura, and I hope I pronounced his last name right, but we'll go with it. Mm-hmm. And it does say that this novel will feature Zori Bliss. So, we could very well be getting some of those, Spice Runner days. And
yeah, I think we'll get that for sure.
Babu Frick?
Yeah.
Just throw
maybe
that
some
out
Babu Frick.
Just
and we
throw
could
that
get
out
a
there.
little, it's not a young adult novel unless you got a little romance in there. So we could see a little,
Babu
Zori
Frick
Poe
romance?
romance.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure where you're going.
I wasn't thinking about Babu Frick having a romance. But I mean, him and 3PO had some serious chemistry.
So yeah, that's going to be called Star Wars Poe Dameron Freefall, and it's officially slated for August 4th of this year.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it. I love Poe as a character.
Yeah.
I love the young adult novels. I'm interested to learn more about Zori Bliss, and if there's a chance of getting Babu Frick again, I'm in. So yeah, I'll probably read this one.
Yeah, and then moving on, Thrawn Ascendancy, which is the first book of the new trilogy of Thrawn novels. That was slated to come out May 5th, and so this is book 1. It's called Chaos Rising.
Mm-hmm.
Part of the Thrawn Ascendancy trilogy. That was slated to come out May 5th. That's been pushed back to actually to October 6th, which is a decent delay there.
Yeah.
However, and this is what gets me like,
there's some good news, right?
Super jazzed about this, and it's gonna sound like a little thing, but I mean, for me, this is like really cool. So the physical, the hard copy version of this novel. Have you ever been into? Well, have you ever seen in Barnes and Noble where they have some of those collections of like classic literary books, like Shakespeare, and they have some like Edgar Allan Poe ones and things like that. And around the edges, like the pages, like I know as we're both church-going individuals, like some Bibles have like gold trim around the edges. Yeah, around the edge of the pages.
Absolutely.
The first Thrawn novel is going to have blue edges around the pages to kind
of pretty cool.
Reflect Thrawn as a chiss with the blue skin.
His color, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty neat. You got to have the hard copy,
Yeah. I said on Twitter, like this.
Not getting the Kindle version of that one. Right?
No, this is definitely a hard copy purchase for me.
Yeah,
and it's like I kind of like I'm even tempted to put it on the shelf backwards so that you can see the blue pages.
You might have to do that.
Yeah.
To be honest, I've never read any of the Thrawn books.
They're so good. I just finished the audiobook of the first one. The first new one.
Yeah, I might have to get into that. I loved Thrawn on Rebels, and I just I wish Thrawn would be the main villain in a movie series. Like, I think that would be.
Thrawn is such an interesting villain because he's almost a villain, and you see this in the first book. He's almost a villain you root for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he'd make an interesting on-screen villain in live action.
Yeah, but just the way he, his like, I mean, he's like next level smart. And his battle sense, and it's almost like a chess game for him, where he's thinking like 5 steps ahead of everything.
Right.
And then the characters that he meets in that first novel, which is just called Thrawn, it's almost like they're watching everything unfold according to his plan, and then like he's just there. He knows what's going to happen, and then it all just falls into place. And these characters are just seeing this happen, and along the way they're just kind of like, what the heck are you doing? And then it all unfolds, and they're like, holy crap.
Yeah, he's always like, one step ahead.
Right. And like like I said, he's almost a villain that I want to root for in some ways.
Sure.
You know? It's
Mm-hmm.
one of my favorite Star Wars characters, so I'm super excited for this. So that wraps up the news. If you're ready, Josh, we have a little bit of a review of Force Collector, or at least a review in progress. You ready to jump into that?
Yeah, I'm ready. Let's jump into our review segment for this week.
My disappointment in your performance cannot be overstated.
Okay, so I started reading a book called Force Collector, which is a young adult novel in the Star Wars universe, and it takes place before The Force Awakens. And I've really enjoyed it so far. Adam, we talked about our feelings about Lost Stars just a few minutes ago, and Lost Stars being my favorite Star Wars novel, especially in the current canon and everything. And for me so far, and I read through Lost Stars. It was a really quick read. Like, I found myself really engaged with it and just kind of just flying through it. And having the same experience with Force Collector so far. It's been a breeze. I'm just going right through it. I'm really, really enjoying it. It's the main characters are Carr and Maze, and they're from I don't remember the name of the planet they're from.
Okay.
And I will say there might be some slight spoilers. For if you want to go into reading this without knowing anything at all, you might want to jump forward a few minutes. And so did you say the name of the planet that they were from, Adam? Or
I did not.
No. Okay. So anyhow, they're students, and I'm thinking they're probably high school age, getting towards the end of high school, if in comparison to Earth. You know what I mean? I don't know if they call it high school or anything. But Carr basically he feels the Force. He believes in the Force. He believes in the Jedi. At this point, the Jedi and the Force are kind of myth. And on the planet they live on, they don't really know a whole lot about the Jedi and everything. And as far as Carr's concerned, there hasn't been Jedi since the Clone Wars. But his grandmother actually taught him quite a bit about the Jedi and believes in the Force and everything like that, but none of his other family members do. So they're trying to tell him, there's something wrong with him, basically, that he's feeling this Force ability that when he touches an object, he can basically see its past and see what happened. And so he just feels trapped, like his parents want to send him to basically to sewing school, because that's what they do in their family, basically, is sew. And he and Maze decide to leave the planet, basically, and so they're off on an adventure, and it leads them to Utapau. So it was really cool. Nice. It was really cool to go back to a Clone Wars planet, and one thing, and I think you've mentioned this, Adam, that you kind of missed about the prequels, and that some of the planets that we're introduced to in the prequels, like Utapau, that's basically
like a very creative
planet, has sinkholes,
right,
and just different environments. And so, but it was cool going back to Utapau, and what happens is Carr touches the staff that belonged to one of the main creatures that lived on Utapau, and it flashes back to the conversation that he had, and I can't remember what the character's name was in Revenge of the Sith, the conversation that he had with Obi-Wan. And it was just really cool seeing that, and it's kind of like one of those things where these new characters are seeing all these things that we've already seen in the movies or in the mythology and everything, and it's really neat. And they're planning to go to Jakku next, so that's where I'm at right now. I'm about 25% through, and I'm curious to see what they're going to find on Jakku.
Do you know when this takes? Like, I know you said before Force Awakens. This is like immediately.
I don't know how much before, to be honest. I just know it takes place before the Force Awakens. So yeah, so far I'm loving it. I highly recommend it. So that is my review in progress of Force Collector.
Wikipedia just says a few years, so it doesn't really
A few
give
years prior. Yeah.
That's cool. I haven't had a chance to read this yet, and it's
Mhm.
next on one of my lists. I think it's one of my library lists.
Yeah, I think it was like, I don't know, it was like $1 on Kindle or something like that one day,
Oh
and
no!
then
Dang it! I would have jumped all over that.
I should have told you about that. I don't
That's
know if
all
it
right.
still is or not, but
No worries.
yeah, for $1, I mean, picked it up, started reading it. So I recommend this one, and I'm excited to see what happens on Jakku and going forward.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm trying to find. I'm pretty sure that I think for some reason like the wait list on that book was like long. For
Hmm.
I was trying to find to see how long it was because I still have another 3 weeks to wait till I can get to read that.
Right.
I think it was like 8 weeks when I first signed up, and so
Yeah.
it's seems to be pretty in demand. And I've read some good things about it, so I'm pretty excited to check that out.
Yeah, I'm very much enjoying it, and I'll bring everybody a full review, once I've finished it. So, all right. So I think that pretty much wraps it up for our review, a quick review section this week. Are we ready
Cool.
to dive into points of view?
Yeah.
Luke, you're going to find that many of the truths we cling to depend greatly on our own point of view.
So for our points of view this week, we're going to be celebrating the work of John Williams. Today is actually his birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, John. I know you're listening.
Yeah.
And he's actually also nominated for an Academy Award for Best Musical Score for The Rise of Skywalker. I'm not
Indeed.
sure what his chances are of winning.
He's going to win.
He's going to win.
positive.
Adam says
Yeah.
he's going to win. I think Joker, whoever did the Joker score, is the front runner. But if they want to celebrate John Williams, and I said this to you yesterday, Adam, I
Yeah.
feel like he could win if they want to honor him for this being his last Star Wars film and just kind of the accumulation of all of his work. I could see him winning in that scenario. But I think that it is the music of the Skywalker saga that really makes it what it is. I think that it just wouldn't be the same without John Williams' score. And it just, I'm curious to see in future movies, like who's going to pick up his mantle as far as that goes. But I wanted to talk about some of our favorite pieces of John Williams' music in Star Wars, and even looking at maybe your favorite score in each trilogy. So maybe we can start there.
Sure.
Do you want to start with? Do you have a favorite score in mind for each trilogy? Or
it's so hard.
It is hard. Yeah, I hate to make you do this, but I'm going to make you do it.
So, in the prequel trilogy, I mean, it's like the Duel of the Fates is like always the one that people are going to gravitate towards, and I get it, and I love Duel of the Fates. I also love Battle of the Heroes, though.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, Across the Stars is like really up there for me, and not just in the prequel trilogy, in the whole thing. I love Across the Stars, which is the love theme, Anakin and Padme love theme from episode 2. Episode 2 has some really great music. For all its faults as a movie beyond that, episode 2 is up there for me just in terms of music alone.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think right at this moment, right now, I'm gonna go with Across the Stars.
Okay. So if you had to pick your favorite score in total from the prequel trilogy, would it be the Attack of the Clones? Or
you mean movies?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought we were just looking at tracks.
But we can do that too. We can pick our favorite theme from each one too.
Yeah, let's go with I'll go with Attack of the Clones for the prequels.
Okay. For me it would have to be Revenge of the Sith.
Okay.
I just love so much of the music in Revenge of the Sith. The way I kind of figured this out was I recently made a playlist on Amazon Music of the Skywalker saga music, and so I just looked at which movie did I take the most songs from in each trilogy, and Revenge of the Sith is right up there. I love that Revenge of the Sith features Duel of the Fates, and I love Battle of the Heroes. I love even just the music. Speaking of Utapau, when General Grievous lands on Utapau and the music that's playing. I love the music during Order 66. So I think, Revenge of the Sith probably has my favorite score in the prequel trilogy.
Okay.
But moving on to the original trilogy, do you have a favorite movie score or a favorite piece of music from that
My
trilogy?
favorite piece of music from that trilogy has always been from the Throne Room, and I think it's called The Return of the Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
But it would be the one that plays in the background with the during the Vader and Luke battle.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah, it might even be the Emperor. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But that one always moves me, and just kind of like the vocals in the background along with the music.
Mm-hmm.
That would probably be my favorite piece of music. As far as a movie, though, I don't know. Maybe Empire, I guess.
Yeah. I'm with you on the movie. I got to go with Empire Strikes Back. Just because it introduced so many iconic themes. The Imperial March, being introduced in Empire, and Yoda's theme, I think, is a beautiful theme as well, and like kind of the Force theme in that. I love the music that plays during the asteroid field scenes and everything, and also just I think the music that plays during the scenes on Bespin, I think is very unique for Star Wars. It has this different sound to it. There's one track called "The Departure of Boba Fett" that I really love from The Empire Strikes Back, and it just has this different sound to it. If I had to pick a favorite piece of music from the original trilogy, it would have to be Return of the Jedi from Return of the Jedi, and I think that's the one where when they're basically facing off against Jabba on the sail barge and everything, and that's the music that plays right when kind of Luke gives his salute and catches his lightsaber from R2. I just it's so upbeat, and it has this sound of adventure and excitement that I love. So
Mad Dog in chat threw out Two Sons scene from episode 4.
Oh yeah, that's a great one too.
And yeah. And he says Empire's also his for the movie score as a whole.
Nice, great. Thank you for your feedback there as well.
Yeah.
Moving on to the sequel trilogy, do you have a favorite score and a favorite piece of music?
I love Rey's theme.
Yeah,
it's very different. It was very different for Star Wars music as far as kind of the sound of it with, almost some more like piano parts, or
definitely.
even like I don't know if those are bells or chimes or something like that.
Right.
But yeah, I really like Rey's theme, and it's one that kind of carries across the entire trilogy.
It's used in a lot of different ways,
Yeah, and then I really do like Kylo Ren's music and some of the First Order themes. But I think for one piece of music, I think Rey's theme is mine.
That's a great choice. Do you have a favorite movie score from the sequel trilogy?
I think I have to go with Force Awakens again. I don't know why.
Yeah, that's a great choice.
I really don't know why. But I remember buying that soundtrack when it first came out, and I haven't listened to a soundtrack before or since as much as I listened to the Force Awakens soundtrack.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I
had the same experience.
Yeah, and like I know how good some of the other soundtracks have been. I know how good Rise of Skywalker is. I just, for some reason, as a whole, The Force Awakens for me just hit on some type of level that I can't quite explain.
Yeah.
But I love the Force Awakens soundtrack. And it might actually be my favorite. So if we were talking about across the entire saga, it might be Force Awakens.
Sure, I can't argue with that at all. And The Force Awakens is also my favorite movie score from the sequel trilogy. I think the thing about the Force Awakens score is that it introduces a lot of new themes, whereas The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker kind of recycle some of those themes from the whole saga and from The Force Awakens and use them in different ways. I think the fact that The Force Awakens introduces Rey's theme, it introduces Kylo Ren's theme, and if I had to pick a favorite piece of music from the sequel trilogy, it'd have to be March of the Resistance.
Okay.
That is my ringtone and the alarm that wakes me up in the morning. I just love the March of the Resistance. What's that?
It's a heck of an alarm in the morning.
It is. It gets me going. It's like dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun. And it makes me want to go to battle basically with the Resistance. Like I just want to join the Resistance when I hear that song. So, but yeah, there's so much great music from the entirety of Skywalker saga, and I'm just happy that we got a chance today on John Williams' birthday to celebrate his music, and hopefully he gets that win tomorrow.
And I also want to mention real quick the standalones, because some of his music does really does carry into that, and I think that really speaks on a deeper level to his connection to Star Wars, just in general. Because
for sure.
While the standalones have really tried to establish themselves as separate stories, kind of connected to the saga in some ways. The one theme that always kind of ties everything in is the music, and that's John Williams' music. Yeah. And one other thing I wanted to mention is the Galaxy's Edge suite. Have you?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Listen to that.
Yeah, that's a great. There's such great music for Galaxy's Edge. I can't wait to be there and experience that.
It is on like Spotify, and it's probably on Amazon Music.
I haven't given it a listen yet, but I need to do that.
Yeah, you should. It's excellent music, and he won. What did he win for that? Just recently.
Yeah, he definitely won an award for that.
Yeah. But if you haven't had a chance to listen to the Galaxy's Edge suite, it's A+ music. So definitely. So yeah, John Williams on his B-Day is one of the most essential parts of Star Wars so far, and when you talk about like how emotional, I use the word emotional, but some of that music just really hits you, it really connects with you, and I think for my money, one of the for me, my favorite movie composer of all time, just because he's done so many things that I love, that I
he did Harry Potter,
towards Harry Potter, Indiana Jones, E.T.
Yep.
That all that stuff. One of my most prized possessions is actually a John Williams autographed poster from when he was at Heinz Hall in Pittsburgh.
Oh, that's awesome.
There was a concert there that was like John Williams and his movie scores, and
that's one thing that I've always wanted to see.
Yeah, I
haven't gotten to see.
Right. Yeah, I didn't get to go to it, but I did win a poster later with his autograph, silver ink up at the top. So
yes, I'm very jealous of my mom because she got to go see
Jurassic Park and Hook. Mad Dog mentioned those, and he did those too.
Yep. So I'll be forever thankful to John Williams for everything that he's contributed to Star Wars and just other movies as well. So thank you, John. And I think we're ready to wrap it up for this week and head to our conclusion.
I'm just glad you're here. At the end.
Okay, so we actually have some results from a poll that we conducted on Twitter this week. We had 11 votes. So I just want to say that I don't know what the results would be if we had 100 votes or if we had 1,000 votes, if they'd be the same. But according to this poll, we asked, what is your favorite movie in the Star Wars sequel trilogy? We had 27% say The Force Awakens, 45% for The Last Jedi, and then 28% for The Rise of Skywalker. So The Last Jedi took that poll. Any thoughts on that, Adam? I know how you feel about The Last Jedi, and you probably wouldn't have it in this position.
I voted for Force Awakens, but that's okay.
Right. I voted for The Last Jedi. Not gonna lie. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see what the results would be if there were more votes out there, And I think Star Wars Newsnet did a poll similar to this, and actually their results were pretty even across all three movies. It was pretty even. So yeah. I'm sure we'll be doing some more polls in the future and throwing some questions out to you guys. We did. I also had an answer to last week's trivia question, which was which character utters the line "I have a bad feeling about this" in the sequel trilogy movies. And
the only one I could remember off the top of my head was Lando in 9.
Yeah, Lando said it in Rise of Skywalker. It was Han Solo in The Force Awakens who said it. And then in The Last Jedi, it was actually BB-8 who said it. And you really didn't audibly hear him say it. He beeps it, and that's when Poe says happy beeps right in the beginning. But BB-8 is saying, I have a bad feeling about this, and Poe says happy, come on, buddy, happy beeps. So you have to kind of look into that a little bit to know the answer. So it's kind of a trick question there. And going into next week, we are going to have our first Triv-away, which Adam Goswick coined the term Triv-away. And so out on Twitter, we will be posting a trivia question. If you respond to the question correctly and share the retweet, then you will be entered and have a chance to win this BD1 pin that I received at Star Wars Celebration. So be looking for that on Twitter.
Yeah. Awesome. So with that wraps up episode 15 of From a Certain Point of View. Thank you again for tuning in. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do on whatever podcatcher you like to use. We are on a number of different ones, and if we aren't on the one that you use, make sure you let us know, and we'll look into adding it. If you listen on iTunes, or even just have iTunes installed on your computer, make sure you give us a review. Reviews really do help get the show out there. Kind of get us ever more present in iTunes as well. And then make sure to head over to the website FromACertainPointOfView.com. We have a couple new blog articles this week, and there's usually some pretty cool stuff happening there. And the socials, Twitter is Certain POV Pod. Make sure you follow Twitter for the Triv-away. The Facebook page is From a Certain Point of View. Make sure you're following there too, because we're going to do that on Facebook too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so make sure you're following Twitter and Facebook for your chances to win the Triv-away. The Discord server, link for that is on the website, and it's always in the show notes. We've had some pretty fun conversation there definitely this past week. So make sure you check that out. And I'm always pretty active, at least in the memes channel. I'm always trying to find some Star Wars memes that make me giggle. So make sure you check that out. And email is certainpovpod@gmail.com. Always feel free to hit us up with an email if you have an idea for the show, if you have a question, comment. Hit up any of our socials. And like we said, if you next week, I wanted to throw this out there. Next week we have a talk about the Old Republic and kind of what sets it apart from different eras of the Republic. And that's a question that came at us from Discord. So, if you ever want to hear something on the show like that, make sure you reach out and let us know. And, if it's something you want to be on the show for, you can do that also. We'd be happy to have you.
Yeah, absolutely. Any topic idea that you might have or question that you might have for us, ask us anything, and we'll try to answer it on here if we can. We would love to just have that interactivity, you know. And I would just also like to say that we've come to the end of our podcast for this week. Adam, was there anything else you wanted to add?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay, and I'm going to say something a little bit different today, but end with how we normally end, and that everything we told you today was true from a certain point of view, and the Force will be with you.
Always.